Welcome back, everybody. I'm Giles, and today we've got a good show. Sometimes we have shows that are pretty good, but this one is going to be really good. And the topic tonight is going to be something that the world, well, Cedia at least, hasn't ever really seen before. When you have these four titans of industry come together to leverage new technology, well, you're going to get what they call Sound Room 10. Now, that sounds kind of mysterious, but we're going to break that apart and tell you exactly what these pieces of Sound Room 10 are and why it's special, and why if you're going to be at Cedia 2023 in Denver, you have to be here. There's not a question. If you're coming, you have to be here. But before we get to all that, let's introduce our four illustrious guests of the evening. And in no particular order, just because this is how they are on my screen. First, Gary, I'm going to start with you. Gary, welcome.
Thank you, Giles. How you doing this evening?
Man, as I was saying before, I don't think I could be any better. This is my bread and butter right here. I love this stuff. How are you, sir?
I'm very good.
Awesome. So could you tell everybody, and this will be the same for all of you guests, who you are, why people should care, and a little bit about the brand that you're here to represent?
Sure. I'm Gary Blouse. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Storm Audio, and I'm here representing the processor side of the equation in Sound Room 10.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you. Chris, you are next on my sundial of warmness, I guess. I don't know. How are you, sir?
Radiance. I'm doing
That's
well.
Right.
So.
Awesome.
Yeah, happy Friday. Cheers to everyone.
Yeah, cheers. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the brand that you're repping.
So Chris Seymour, I co-founded Seymour Screen Excellence. The Screen Excellence part is my peers across the pond. So we're kind of a collaborative between two companies. We have manufacturing in London and Iowa. So we going to bring some neat things to the show we're going to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Anthony, you are next, sir.
I am Anthony Grimani, and I've been wondering what Chris Seymour has been drinking. He what?
So this is a lovely bottle of Kirk and Sweeney Dominican rum that my brother got for me, and if you notice, it's empty. So if anyone out there,
what happened there?
It's too delicious, I gotta say. So rum over ice, it's lovely.
Now we know. See, I'm on here just to find out what people are drinking.
A little behind the scenes there.
So I'm Anthony Grimani, co-founder of a novel loudspeaker company called Grimani Systems. I've been doing this home cinema thing, home theater thing. They call it home cinema on the other side of the pond. I've been doing this for quite a few years. I hate to count how many, but it goes back to, believe it or not, as early as 1985. And working all kinds of different fun stuff. We'll talk about it. And a few years back, with two partners, decided to start a novel speaker company, a speaker company that does things that other speaker companies are not doing, and some of which is going to be presented in Sound Room 10, as it's known.
I love it.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to talk about the speaker and amplifier side of all of this.
Awesome. And last but not least, Todd, tell us a little bit about yourself and your brand.
Hey, Giles. First, thanks again for having us on the show tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Great to see you again. Fun to be a repeat back on the show. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Todd Gertis. I am the owner and principal of RowOne Home Entertainment and Home Theater Seating. So as you might wonder or be able to allude to, we're providing innovative, fun, entertaining comfort for the guests while they're experiencing the home cinema pleasure that all my fellow co-hosts here are going to bring to you in Sound Room 10.
Sound Room 10.
Sound Room 10.
So the way I want to cover this, and we're going to talk through this kind of step by step, obviously with the focus on your four brands. So we'll start kind of on the outside and work toward the person that might be in the room. And what I mean by that is, we'll kind of walk through the signal chain, with the last part of the signal chain being the viewer. Now, the concept of having a theater demo room at Cedia, that's not new, but what's new is really the technology that's going to be applied inside of this room, which is what I find really exciting, because the technologies that are used here, I think, really represent part of what the future holds for home theater, home cinema, for at least, the mid-tier to high-end consumer, right? And I think when you start getting into the higher end theater bills, you're going to see this pretty much exclusively over the next 5 years, right? So this is the way things are going, absolutely, without a doubt. But so we'll start with, sources. Nobody here is doing source, but I assume that they'll have Kaleidoscape in the room as the source, right? That's kind of the go-to. Love that product. From there, that cables up to a processor, and that's where the magic starts at. So, Gary, I think this is where you're up to talk a little bit about what you've got going on from a processing point of view.
So, a few years ago, we introduced a card for our Elite series of processors that allowed for, not just, a digital connection to, let's say, amplifiers and speaker platforms, but really a networked, option. And that's based on the AES67 platform. Now, the cool thing about that is it interfaces with a bunch of different things, the other AES67 Ante networks as well. And really one of the benefits of doing this is instead of having, a bunch of, let's say, XLR cables, and let's say, for a high channel count, you're talking 23, 24 of those, all that goes away. The connection between the amplifier section and the processor itself is all done via AES67. So, and that's the protocol that'll be sending all of the multiple channels of sound to the amplifier section. So basically, it is a network connection, just like you would have as far as an RJ45 that connects you, let's say, for your productivity network in your home.
So this is now, is this running over kind of a generic Ethernet network, or do you want to install a network specific to the theater, right? So you'll have, a switch in there and that kind of thing. How is that working? Or can this just direct cable with like a 10 gig or something from your processor into an amp stack?
You can do it actually both ways. So, one way to do it is an ad hoc connection that's direct connected to the amplifier stack. But if you're doing a bunch of amplifiers like we're doing for this demonstration, it's much easier to go into a network switch and do it that way. Now, could this ride on a productivity network? Yes. But if it's a larger network, I would say you'd probably want to deploy a second network that would just be for the entertainment side of the system. So, that's what we'll be doing at Cedia. We'll have a separate network that just runs the audio over IP portion of the demo.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to touch a little bit about on the processor itself. Now, this processor, if you look at it, if the typical AVR processor crowd looked at this and they looked on the back, I think it would be very foreign to them because
absolutely
they're. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's obviously no analog out whatsoever, right?
That's right. No XLRs, no RCAs, just a pair of RJ45s, and basically the pair's there to give you a primary network and a secondary network. You could have a backup network if you needed to, for certain deployments. But that's the only outputs on the processor. And, if you think about it, I mean, this is the signal chain these days. We're a digital platform. So we anything digital coming in just comes in. Anything analog, we convert immediately to digital. And then once you're in the digital domain of our processor, we keep it that way all the way to the output side. Now, on the amplifier side, they're all digital these days. Okay. So why are we converting to analog just to connect two digital things together? That just seems, it seems silly. So that's why we came out with the Evo or Evolution product. And this is really kind of a statement piece saying this is the future of this is what the future of theater processors looks like.
Awesome. So now let's follow the chain a little bit from here. So you're going to have Ethernet coming out for the audio signal, and then you'll still have an HDMI coming out that goes up to a projector of some kind or whatever your display device is. And now this is going to take us to our next two folks, which are going to be Chris and Anthony. And I think, Chris, let's start with you on the video side. I have to give a personal plug for Seymour Screen Excellence. Of all the folks on here, Chris's product is the only one that I actually have in my home, but I can't even tell you how nice his screens are. And I use a Trim L, which is a side masking for constant image height. And I use that with a projector with a lens in front of it. And the screen is just amazing. Now, the screen that you're going to have here is even next level beyond that, right? And I think that's going to be a 4-way masking screen using the Neo Enlighter material.
That's correct. So yeah, same screen material, but we have 3 masking platforms in which you have the Trim, which is the entry level, brings masking to the masses. It's that 4-digit price tag. Then we have the TAM screen, which will actually have a baby version of that to show people off kind of what we're doing and how we crammed 4-way masking into that really same 3 3/4 inch wide border. Pretty innovative. And then at the top end is what's going to be inside the room, and that's the adjustable ratio theater. This is the platform that we build on wall. We can go up to 550 inches wide or diagonal. So we're going to take your 2-way, we're going to double it, so 4-way. Same screen material, but we're going to show off and be able to talk about what capabilities this has, and we're going to sweep as wide a range of content as I can find. Something hopefully as tall as possible and as wide as possible, even if I have to keep watching the movie Women Talking, because it's 2:7:6 ratio. That's amazing, but I'm not yet getting the demo clip out of there. So I don't know. I'll keep watching it. We'll see. It's painful, but I'm doing this for you.
Right on. So let me ask a little bit about the material too, because this is part of the special sauce, right? So, for folks that might not really be into screen materials, and I don't consider myself necessarily to be an expert, but I do consider you to be one. This is an AT screen, meaning acoustically transparent. You can put your speakers behind it, and this material is a woven material as opposed to a perf material, right? So my question is, what makes this particular material stand out from other materials that try to do the same job?
It's a custom engineered material that's not only color perfect, but it hits that point to where you're getting the most sound transmission, but also the amount of possible reflectivity off the material you can get. The material doesn't have a 2-dimensional through holes through it. And so it behaves as a 3-dimensional material. And we're talking tiny, tiny, tiny dimensions. But the main thing is that you can put your nose up to it. You're not going to see any weave, any holes, any texture, anything. This is the material for the folks. And I completely respect them, but I'll get very experienced dealers and installers come up to me at Cedia and they'll say, I hate AT screens. And I agree with them. They're terrible. And I want to show them, this is the material I want to put in front of them and say, okay, if the material is appropriate for if the room is appropriate for a white material, I challenge you to try this. Like this, and our professional clients have validated that as well. I mean, there's mastering studios are mastering the content on this material.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, now, so in parallel with the video, we've got the audio, and this is more secret special sauce for this room. And this is another piece. They're all super exciting, but this one's pretty cool. Anthony, can you tell us a little bit about the speakers that are going to be here and how they connect back to the rest of the system, and about where the amplification lives, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Actually, Giles, we didn't talk about this. Can I share a slide on screen?
You totally can share a slide. You should be able to. There should be a
little
little button down at the bottom that lets you present.
I thought that was a present to you. Okay.
The presentation is a present, but if you want to give me a present, I'm down. I love presents, especially if it's a bottle of rum. I present you with. I'll have an empty bottle show up, and they're like, "Here you go."
For you, Giles.
Let's see. Let me, if you can confirm that you can see this.
I think everyone can see it now.
Everyone can see it.
There we go.
So this is a little diagram of what one of the speakers in this room is going to be. This happens to be one of the front speakers called a Rixos XL. XL standing for extra large. We have a line of speakers called Rixos. For those of you who speak Greek, that means, or want to speak Greek, that actually means shallow. few years back, we came up with a way to make speakers for home cinemas that are very shallow, so that they don't take up room behind an acoustically transparent screen, or they don't take up too much room behind a stretch fabric dress. So this particular speaker, the Rixos XL, is what we call our flamethrower. It puts out about 125 decibels at 1 meter anechoic.
Oh my
Yet
God.
it's only 8 inches deep and only weighs 60 pounds.
Wow.
So it's for its horsepower capability, it's actually quite small. Now, it's driven by 4 amplifiers that are digital amplifiers. They're amps that can take a digital signal in, do signal processing to it to do the crossover, room EQ, speaker EQ, whatever you need to do. And that entire assembly is surrounded here in red. This represents the speaker with its amplifier. Now, thanks to the Storm Evo, we can actually feed direct digital audio from the particular channel. Let's say this is the center channel, through a Cat6 cable that's passing what's called AES67. This is the Audio Engineering Society, which I'm a member of. That's not even as fun as going to Sound Room 10. So AES67 is a standard that allows to essentially stream audio, in the case of the Storm product, up to 32 channels of audio down one Cat6 cable. And we're going to take that signal into the speaker. So I'm going back up the source. So that signal is coming from a network switch. And that network switch is fed by the Storm decoder. So Storm decoder receives through HDMI the video and the audio. The audio part is decoded into however many channels are in that soundtrack. If it's a full-on Dolby Atmos soundtrack, it could be 15, 16, 17, whatever was in the track. Feeds the network switch, and then through an initial configuration, when we build up the room, we're going to say output 2 of the Storm decoder is going to be assigned. Its stream is going to be assigned to go to the amplifier that drives the speaker. So it's all done in the virtual world. You just open a laptop, go to the Storm configuration menu, and you tell it what to do. So finally, what's interesting is that digital. So in the past, that signal would come in analog. It's okay. We then have to take a signal that was a digital signal that got decoded inside the Storm decoder or somebody else's decoder, converted through a D to A into analog. Then we connect it with an XLR cable where you can maybe make mistakes or pick up noise along the way. And then you would convert it back into digital through an A to D converter. Now we can get rid of all of that. Signal stays digital all the way through. It's conveyed through the network. The category cable, if you build a good one or buy a good one, is going to convey the digital signals without any losses. And then it can come in. We equalize the sound for room correction. I don't care how good of a speaker anybody makes, it's going to be affected by the room, and you need to do room correction. So we measure the room, figure out what are the coefficients we need to do to correct for the room. In the case of the Rixos XL, we have a 4-way crossover that separates the sound the signal that goes to the woofer amp, to the bottom mid-range, to the top mid-range, and to the waveguide loaded tweeter. Then there's also delay for aligning the drivers or aligning the speaker to the other speakers in the room. There's protection so that if the client's teenager decides to go in there and turn the volume to 12, it doesn't blow up the speaker. And all of that is IP addressable. And that's where it's really excited is all of these functions, all these controls that in the past were dials and controls you'd have to maybe have a proprietary interface for. Right now, you just open your computer, go to the IP address of that speaker. You can see all of the functions. You can adjust it. You can do whatever you want while you're there. So in Sound Room 10, I'll be in the room with my laptop talking to the speaker. But wait, there's more. If Sound Room 10 was actually on the vast internet, and you had the keys to the kingdom of Sound Room 10, you could, from somewhere else, talk to that speaker and adjust it, monitor it, tune it, do whatever you want, which you're not going to do at Cedia. But for our clients that have their own sound rooms, after we get done installing all of this, knowing that from anywhere I am in the world, I can open a laptop, point to that speaker, and check out what's going on. Maybe the client wants it louder. Maybe they want more bass. Maybe they want, I don't know, whatever it is. Without having to go on site, I can actually tune it. And I think that's just amazing. Being able to be there virtually from anywhere in the world is really, really cool. So that's what's going on the sound system. So this is one out of many speakers in the room. While I have my sharing going, I am going to stop that sharing, and I'm going to start another sharing of a different thing. Hold on one second. I click a bunch of different.
Sure. Yeah. While you're getting that spun up, Brett Bjorkus brings up a good point. There's great pieces of technology here, but some of the stuff that this brings to the table is just simple items. Like it's easier to deal with one cable than 32 XLR cables, right? So it's pretty nice.
So what Brett is not saying is this funny little oh, actually I have to finish hitting a button. There it is. Here's a funny statistic. I've worked on about 1,000 rooms in the last 35 years. Either when I was at Dolby or at Lucasfilm THX, or since I started my company 24 years ago. I've been in a lot of them. Rooms built by somebody else. No one has yet, and this is a challenge I'm putting out to the world, no one has yet hooked it all up correctly. When I go in,
accepted.
It's a challenge. I go in because I'm asked to go tune it, commission it, configure it. I always have to fix something, whether it's a wire, incorrectly hooked up ground, something is wrong in the wiring. That's not because people are doofuses. It's just because there's too many wires. And if you throw enough wires at somebody, there will be a mistake. With this, I'm hoping I can actually hit soon my first flawlessly hooked up system, which is because it's all on the network. There's a lot less stuff that can go wrong. It's a lot easier to hook up. It's a lot easier to have reliability. It's a lot easier to not have hum loops. It's a lot easier for everything to come together and be solid. So thank you, Brett, for pointing that out. This is a diagram, essentially a block diagram of what this room is going to have. Storm audio processor's output. So into the Storm audio processor will be a kaleidoscope, and I think that's all we're going to use. I may bring a Blu-ray player just for fun. The output of that,
Blu-ray.
the output of that's going to go through just one network cable into the switch, and the output of the switch is each amplifier group is going to receive a network feed, and the output of that's going to feed the 3 front speakers, the 2 wide channel speakers that are going to be Rixos M's, the 4 side channel speakers, the 2 back channel speakers, and the 6 top channel speakers. In addition to that, just to make sure the bottom end is taken care of, we've got 4 main subwoofers and 2 infrasonic subwoofers. These are new products we're introducing at the show, the AES21, infrasonic 21. Just it'd be, just a little 21-inch driver with an excursion like this, driven by about 2,000 watts. Yeah, just that small. So that's the hookup. And can I show a quick diagram of the room, guys? Is that okay?
We would love to see a diagram of the room. Everyone wants to see a diagram of the room.
So this is 4 diagrams of the room. This is what it's going to look like, from 4 different angles. These things over here are beams in the ceiling that our guy Mario Praviti just added in. Thank you, Mario. And this is how this room's going to get laid out when you come in. Now, all of this gear you're seeing on the walls. Let me go forward here. The room is going to look like this technologically, but this little rectangle is going to hide the speakers and acoustical treatments. There's going to be diffusers, absorbers, bass absorbers, all kinds of different stuff. They're all going to be hidden by this beautiful, what has been dubbed the belly band.
Belly band.
Belly band.
Belly band. I love it.
It's going to be a stretch fabric wrap all the way around to hide it the way a home cinema should be, and it's going to be really cool. This is the front. When you peel back the Seymour screen, that's what you're going to see. So that's what we're doing in there. All right. It's gonna be kick-ass, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, and then for everybody that's watching, I'll be at Cedia, and if I can get access in there for a few minutes, I'm going to film as much as I can and try and put out a tour video so people can see the real thing and talk a little bit about what's going on. So, if you want to see that, Chris, if you're talking, you're on mute.
I was.
Here he comes. There he is.
There you
Which
are.
is where I usually belong, I tell you. One of the things I think is going to be amazing in this show is that we're going to show off is that all of this technology that Anthony's talking about is going to be completely concealed, as these luxury private cinemas do. And so you're going to walk into this room and you're not going to see a bunch of boxes like you're walking into a Magnolia showroom or something. Like this isn't the experience, not the product. Now the product gets you to the experience and the expertise and the collaboration that we're able to provide, but really the only thing you're going to see is the amazing seats that Todd's going to be bringing, and that's what anybody wants, is you want to sit down.
Well,
and that's a great segue. That's a great segue to Todd. And one thing I do want to say is I've often said that the most important piece of equipment in anyone's theater is the seating, right? Because if you can't
absolutely,
then the rest of it is going to be great. But if you're in pain 30 minutes after you get started, well, that will help. that can help.
Indeed.
But the seats are super important, and I've had the opportunity to sit in a number of RowOne seats, and from the low end to the high end, they're really wonderful seats. But Todd, can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be going on in this room in particular?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think the role of seating in the industry and in a theater in particular, like you've been talking with each of us about the special sauce, right?
Mm-hmm.
The special sauce of seating, in my opinion, should have two purposes. Number one is to love you when you first sit in it and do so consistently for the entire viewing and hearing pleasure that my co-guests, co-sponsors here are bringing to the table. If we give a seating experience where after 30 minutes, you start to feel a spring or your butt cushion isn't good and it starts to distract your mind and your body from the viewing and the sound, which is why we all go to the movies, right? We go to the movies to experience a cinematic shock, whether we cry, laugh, get angry at what we're seeing because of the plot twist. The seating's job as a special sauce is number one, to get out of the way. And the second thing that it's supposed to do is to create an environment where, in this case, with Sound Room 10, the innovation is to get the seat out of the way of this amazing sound processor that's taking the signal from the kaleidoscope, delivering that, as Anthony so eloquently put, in a first fully digital environment, and that sound will have no obstruction to the viewer's ears. And that's really the innovation. So last year, when we were together as a band, not the belly band, because I do not want our name to be the belly band, thank you. But last year, the fun part for RowOne was to bring the first from the ground up design since our relaunch in 2020, called the Cortez chair. And the Cortez was innovative in terms of its styling. We innovated in terms of not just a blue LED cup holder light, but multicolor, dimmable capable, and introducing 110 power, so you could literally pop the popcorn into your lap live before the movie started if you wanted to, right? And this year we've taken 2 years of research, and one of the things that we learned from viewers of your show, Jiles, is what are the things that you want most out of a theater chair? And one of the comments that we received was, get the chair out of the way of the sound getting to my ears. And so we're launching, it launched the beginning of the year, but it's still new to your viewers, and it will be new to the attendees of Cedia. the Calvary is the name of the chair. Low seat back profile, in particular, still a contemporary design, and fully removes the chair from the sound that Anthony is going to orchestrate for all of the guests during Sound Room 10.
That's awesome. We have one comment of a future collaboration between you and Anthony, which would be theater chairs with built-in, and I'm going to say powered AES capable subwoofers.
Yes.
That would be
There's a market there.
You just invented a new category.
All of my viewers, they're out there going, ooh. They're all like, I don't need these butt shakers anymore. I'm doing this with real transducers. No, Todd, that sounds wonderful. I really look forward to seeing the new seating. Now, I don't want to keep us too long, right? I try and keep these episodes short and sweet so people get what they've come for and not too much bloat. But there's a couple of questions that I do have, and that really is around the construction and tuning of the room, right? So if we could do just a couple of minutes on what it takes to put a room like this together at Cedia, I think that's important for people to understand, because you're not just throwing this together. As you can see, there's a lot of design and planning that goes into this room, likely as much as would go into any typical private theater that you were going to build. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, we started this process in January for this room, and we had initially bi-weekly calls, but we've been on weekly calls for quite a while. So there's a lot of prep and pre work to get the room. But when we execute it, that's another completely different level of big lift. And it'll be all of this group on the ground doing it. I mean, we all come together, and we look like installers for one day. We drink like installers for one day, and get it going.
That's awesome. Now the other piece is, when it comes to the tuning of the room, how is that going to work specifically? Because if I understand things correctly, obviously Storm, you guys have diracting technologies built into your processors that can do this kind of thing. And then Anthony, you also have that kind of technology built into your stack. So how do you guys put those two together? Or have you decided we'll go one way or another way? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a number of things Dirac does that are really amazing, including linearizing the impulse response. I just got very tweaky. There's a thing in audio called the frequency response and a thing called the impulse response. Measuring frequency response has been a thing we've all done, audio engineers do forever. And that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to get all of the speakers that start off as really smooth frequency response until you put them in the room and the room does this to them. I'm going to linearize the frequency response. Then we're going to let Dirac look at the impulse response of that. Because there's always some phase errors. There's some things that change in the time domain. And Dirac's really good at linearizing that. I've actually anecdotally tried to fool it once, flip the polarity on a mid-range speaker without telling Dirac that it was intentionally messed up, and it in its digital algorithm flipped it back. So we're going to let Dirac linearize the impulse response. The room will have acoustical treatments, but not too many. And we're going to let this new technology that I'll let Gary talk about a little bit, that does also a linearization of the acoustic character of the room, the reflections, and using the multiple speakers to try to control that. We will let that linearize the room. So ultimately, while we don't want the speakers to sound like giant headphones with no acoustic around them, we're going to do everything in our power through both manual cuisine tools, which is bunches of microphones and analyzers, and the cooking equivalent of you use your tongue and your mouth to taste your cooking. Well, we're going to use our ear, and we're going to go, how does that sound? Okay, now let's apply this impulse response. Let's apply this, until we get to a point where we're like, yeah, that sounds really sweet, which is what we normally do. So the tuning, interestingly enough, this is not what you're asking, but the tuning starts with the design, right?
Certainly.
We looked at the room. We know what the room is made of. We know the dimensions. We know the materials. And so my engineering team figured out, okay, well, here's what we're going to need in terms of various materials to put on the walls and the ceiling. Here's what we're going to need. Here's what the speakers need to be, where they got to be based on what we know in all theory and calculation. So that's where it starts, is planning. Then you put all the speakers in there and you measure them electroacoustically with all these tools. My favorite one, I'll say it, is Room EQ Wizard. It's an amazing program. It does a lot. It's a free download, but please do give the creator of it a decent sponsorship fund, because he's really amazing at what he does. And so with that, you can actually look at what the room is doing on an analyzer, and you see it all. You try to linearize it. You listen, you linearize, you tweak. All of the tools for tweaking in the first set are in our amplifiers. There's all this DSP. And then we go, okay, we got a good frequency response. Now let's look at what the impulse response can be. That's where direct's going to come in. Now let's look at what it's going to do for an active acoustic correction. And we're going to work it until we're all happy, or until we've all finished the next bottle of rum, I guess.
Until you're like, I can't take it anymore. I do want to touch on Dirac just a bit. So Gary, Dirac is a leader in the space for making a system work well in the room that it finds itself in. Could you talk just very briefly about the specific technologies that people will be able to experience here from a Dirac point of view coming out of your processor?
Yeah, so we're very close partner to Dirac, and usually when they come out with new features and software, we're one of the first partners that launch it. So 2 months ago, we launched Active Room Treatment, which is one of 3 of their software modules that all work together to tune the room. What's unique about Active Room Treatment, though, is that it utilizes, instead of kind of treating every speaker kind of as an island, it's basically using all speakers to actively treat the room acoustically in DSP. And so that means that even if you're, let's say, listening to a 2.1 track and only 3 of your speakers are working, all the speakers in your system are still correcting for those 2 speakers to give you the best experience possible. So we will be running that on top of what Anthony does. The other thing to say about it is, the Dirac Live is great in the room correction that it is, but the best room correction is the room correction that does the least. So Anthony, designing the room and doing all the things he does, all of the passive treatments that we're putting in as well are all going to elevate this experience kind of to the nth level. And then Active Room Treatment will be the thing that's just the nice little drizzle on top of the sauce, basically.
That's awesome. Yeah, everybody out there, really, if you're listening right now and you can make it to Cedia, this is going to be a real treat. This is something that not many people will have an opportunity to experience. If you don't do this for a living and you don't have $500,000 laying around for a room, this is a special treat. So I really recommend that you get out here to check this out. And I'm in Denver, so I'm so happy that it's just my backyard.
Oh, easy.
If you guys need anything, let me know. I'm here already. Okay.
Well,
now with that,
Jiles.
So hold on. What are you offering? Are you offering rum tools? Like if I need a connector, can I call you?
You know what?
Denver's got options, I'll tell you.
If you need some banana plugs, I got you covered. No, but yeah, I'm very happy to help out. You guys are awesome. In any way that I can assist, let me know. I'm here. Todd, what were you going to say, sir?
Yeah, I just, I can't emphasize enough the excitement that this team wants to express to your viewers and to the attendees. I mean, Gary and Anthony, they talk about it from a definition kind of standpoint, technical, but for the listeners, this is about firsts, right? What Gary's bringing is the first time ever direct software has been applied. What Anthony's bringing is the first AES67 system, Ethernet through speakers. And, I just want to, it's a privilege to be with these guys. But I want the viewers to understand how many firsts they're going to experience. You've never got this. And what makes it unique is we're trying to present a true evolution with these firsts to the cinema experience, and with the hopes that it becomes the go-to want for your fans, Jiles. And so I just wanted to emphasize to the viewers that may not know that these are firsts that have never happened before in more than 20, 40, 60 years in this wonderful industry that we're all able to play in. So
that's awesome. All right, we are butting up against our time. We're a little bit over. So I want to just round table very quickly. Everybody has a chance for their final word as we close out the show tonight. And Chris, you've been a little quiet, so I think you're up first, sir. Any parting words for the viewers this evening? Putting you on the spot. We need something
parting words. What we're trying to convey is, I mean, we're a bunch of technologists bringing this together to represent this art form, and the art form is the experience. And in the experience, we want you to suspend disbelief, just sit in the chairs and lose yourself, and watch the screen and lose yourself, and just be immersed. It's when you are no longer hearing little boxes and seeing little screens, and you're in the environment that I think it was Todd that was alluded to earlier. That's when the magic of the art comes through to you. And that's what really we're all here about.
Awesome. Thank you. Gary, final word, sir.
I think the best thing I can say is, we talk about the future of the Evo processor being the future of processors. Active room treatment, I think, is, again, another future technology that's going to mature over time. And I guess that's the thing we really are saying here is the future is not in the future. It's now. Okay. Literally, if you want to see what the newest technology looks like, this is the room to come see it in.
Awesome. All right, Anthony, your final words, please.
Yeah. And I'm going to say the future also brings us an ease of deployment and installation and a reliability that has not been a hallmark of our industry. Yeah. The better products out there, the things that are the Ferraris, whatever. I don't want to blame that brand, but the high-end stuff has not been very reliable, has been difficult to deploy for integrators, finicky, difficult, whatever words you want to use. And the future erases that. The future makes it easy to put together and easy to ensure that when the client hits play, it's actually playing and blowing away everybody in the room. That's really key.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's because the technologists that are going to be attending Cedia, I mean, the experience is one thing, but they're all technologists. They're going to want to know, how do we get from point A to point B? And to Anthony's point, like streamlining that and making that more reliable and predictable, that's a lot of nuts and bolts to talk about. That's a lot of value.
That's awesome. All right, Todd, you are at the end of the line for us. Any final words?
Thank you, first of all, to you, Jiles, for allowing us to share with your audience tonight our excitement. Thank you to the consumers out there that are listening to this show, the fans, maybe other influencers that help us bring our message. We, as CEOs and leaders of our companies, love what we do. We get to bring innovation firsts to all of the attendees of Cedia that we are so excited to bring, but none of it would be possible without yourself, Jiles, without viewers giving us ideas like, what if we did this? And allow us, as Chris says, as scientists or innovators or futurists to try and apply it. And we have fun doing it. We're honored to be here. Come see us in room 10.
Room 10. Awesome. And one final quote here from Brett. To sum it all up, Sound Room 10 is going to be the best demo room ever. It's built by people that are passionate and really care and has the best technology at the show. And I think he might just be right about that. All right, everybody. For all the folks that are watching, thank you so much. I know your time is precious. Thanks for spending it with us. And for everybody on the show, guests, thank you. I know it's late in some places, so thank you for your time. Everybody, see you at Cedia, and also see you guys in the next video. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
See you. Thank you.
Thanks.